If you are watching this on Kdrama Drops right now, then get ready to hold your breath because what you are about to hear is one of the most shocking, emotionally intense, heart-stopping moments ever captured behind the cameras. Before we go deeper, I need you to brace yourself, sit tight and listen closely because this scene between Yan and Tong Liya is going to change the way you see them forever. This is not just a moment. This is a revelation. If you are new to Kdrama Drops, do not forget to join the family so you never miss the next mind-shaking story. The studio lights were already dim that evening. The crew had been working non-stop for hours and everyone was feeling the weight of the night pressing down on them. Yet the atmosphere was strange that day. It was tense but also expectant. As if everyone knew something unforgettable was about to unfold, but no one could put their finger on it. Yan arrived on set first. His face was calm, but there was a heaviness in his walk that only someone who understood him deeply could recognize. His steps echoed through the long hallway with a slow, steady beat that made his presence impossible to ignore. Tong Liya arrived moments later in a soft pastel costume that made her look like she had stepped straight out of a dream. But her eyes were sharper than usual. Focused. Alert. Ready. Something in her spirit told her that this scene would not be like any other. When the director called for rehearsal, no one expected the world to stop. But that is exactly what happened. Jerry stood in the center of the old wooden bridge built on the set. Fog machines created a gentle mist around him, giving the whole moment a quiet magic. The night was silent. Every crew member stood with their heart in their throat waiting for Tong Liya to step in. And then she appeared. She walked slowly across the bridge toward him, each step soft but powerful, as if she was walking into a destiny she could not escape. Jerry looked up, and the moment their eyes met, the entire atmosphere changed. There was an energy. A pull. A connection that no one could explain. Tong Liya delivered her first line with a voice so steady yet filled with emotion that the camera operator nearly forgot to move. Jerry responded with a gentle tone, but there was something else in his eyes. Something real. Something honest. The director whispered. Keep rolling. Do not stop. Because everyone could feel it. Something unscripted was happening between them. The scene required Tong Liya to place her hand on Yan's chest, but when she touched him, he inhaled sharply as if he had been holding his breath for too long. She looked up at him, and for a moment they forgot the cameras. They forgot the lights. They forgot everyone. Only the two of them existed in that moment. Jerry whispered a line that was not in the script. A quiet, emotional sentence that sent chills through every person watching. You do not know how long I have waited for you. Tong Liya froze. Even the director did not expect that. It was raw. It was vulnerable. It came from somewhere deep inside him. And her eyes softened in a way that made people on set glance at each other silently. Something was different. Something felt too real. She responded in a whisper so gentle it felt like silk. Then why did you stay silent for so long? The dialogue was not written by the screenwriter. It was born right there in front of everyone. It was emotional instinct. Pure connection. Then it happened. Jerry stepped closer. Just one step. But it changed everything. Tong Liya did not retreat. She lifted her chin and met his gaze with unwavering courage. Their breaths were slow. Their hearts racing. Their hands shaking slightly. The silence around them was so intense the sound crew could hear their own heartbeat echoing in their headphones. Then Jerry placed his hand on her cheek with a gentleness that nearly melted everyone watching. His eyes softened in a way no one had ever seen before. Tong Liya whispered his name, and it came out like a confession she had been carrying for years. The crew members felt something heavy settle in the air. The director let out a slow breath. Capture it. Capture everything. Jerry leaned in only slightly, but the moment lingered like a promise suspended in time. Tong Liya's eyes glistened as if emotions she had never expressed before were suddenly rising to the surface. The tension was so powerful it felt like the entire set was holding one collective breath. And then the director shouted quietly, not loudly, not forcefully, but almost whispering. Cut. But neither of them moved. They stayed locked in the moment as if the world had vanished around them. The scene spread through the crew like wildfire. Every person who witnessed it knew they had seen something rare. Something electric. Something unforgettable. By the next morning, clips from the behind-the-scenes footage were already circulating in private industry chats. Editors were shocked. Producers were stunned. Fans who managed to catch early leaks were losing their minds. People began asking questions. Was it acting or was it something more? Did Jerry Yan just confess through a character? Did Tong Liya just respond in a way that felt too real? And the more people watched the scene, the more they felt it. There was depth. There was longing. There was something unspoken that the script alone could not explain. Later that night, Jerry and Tong Liya met in the hallway after filming ended. Neither of them spoke for a moment, but the closeness returned instantly. She looked at him with quiet intensity. "You surprised me tonight." He smiled gently. "You surprised me too." She lowered her gaze. The moment felt too real. He whispered softly. "It was real for me." Tong Liya inhaled sharply but did not step away. Instead she whispered. "Then what happens now?" Jerry did not answer immediately. He simply took her hand. The hallway was silent. Their hearts were loud. And in that stillness one truth became clear. Something between them had changed. Something awakened. Something neither of them could hide any longer. The set remained unusually quiet long after the director called for a break. No one dared to speak loudly. No one even moved with their usual rhythm. Something had shifted in the air after Jerry Yan and Tong Liya delivered that scene, and every person on the crew felt it like a tremor beneath their feet. Jerry stepped out into the studio hallway where the lights cast long shadows across the floor. He leaned against the wall, trying to steady the emotions rushing through him. That scene had been written to be painful but controlled. Yet the moment he looked into Tong Liya's eyes, everything changed. It was as if her emotions had poured directly into him, filling him with a force he had not prepared for. Inside the studio, Tong Liya sat alone in front of one of the prop tables. Her hands were clasped tightly together and her breathing was shallow. She had acted for many years but never had a scene knocked the air out of her the way this one had. It felt too real. Too close. Too honest. A crew member walked by, giving her a careful glance. Everyone had seen it. Every single pair of eyes had witnessed the spark that collapsed the emotional quake between her and Jerry. No one could pretend otherwise. Finally, the assistant director approached Jerry in the hallway. "She wants to speak with you," he said quietly. Jerry looked up. A single breath passed between them, then he walked back inside the studio where Tong Liya still sat in the soft haze of the set lights. For a moment neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy but not hostile. More like the silence that forms when two hearts are beating too fast to find words. "You felt it too," Tong Liya said softly without looking at him. Jerry took a seat across from her. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. I did." She finally raised her eyes. "And what do we do now?" He exhaled a long, slow breath. His emotions were still tangled, but he knew he needed to respond carefully. The scene was acting. But the reaction. The way his heart had clenched. The way her voice had cracked. The way their world had stopped for a full second. That had not been scripted. "Maybe we just trust that it was honesty," he said gently. "And honesty is not something we should fear." Tong Liya looked at him with a softness that made the room feel even quieter. "I was scared," she admitted. "I thought I would lose control. That I would break." "You did break," Jerry said. "And it was the most real thing I have seen in years." Her shoulders trembled just slightly. The truth in his words shook something deep inside her. She reached up to wipe a tear that was not from sadness but from the overwhelming release of emotion. Jerry leaned forward carefully. I do not want you to feel alone in this. Whatever that moment was. We walked through it together. She lowered her gaze and whispered. Then why does it still feel like it is burning through me? He gave a faint smile. Because some scenes stay with us. Not because of the acting. But because they touch something we keep trying to hide. Tong Liya closed her eyes. For the first time since the cameras cut, she allowed herself to truly breathe. Minutes passed. The studio lights dimmed further as the crew moved equipment outside. But the two of them remained there in the center of the room, caught in the quiet aftermath of a scene that had shaken the entire production. When she finally looked up again, her voice was steadier. Jerry. Promise me one thing. Anything. He said. Do not let the world twist this moment into something ugly. Let the truth be ours, not theirs. Jerry nodded without hesitation. Then reached out and placed his hand gently over hers. The touch was light but certain. I promise. The door opened suddenly and the director walked in, freezing the moment. He looked at the two stars with a mixture of awe and disbelief. I do not know what happened in that scene. He said slowly. But whatever it was, it changed this drama forever. And the world will feel it when they watch it. Jerry and Tong Liya exchanged a look. A silent understanding. A shared acknowledgement of something deep and undeniable. As they stood to return to set, the entire crew watched with new eyes. Their energy had shifted, their connection had deepened, and everyone felt the rise of something powerful. When the cameras rolled again, the scene began, but this time the air was no longer heavy with shock. Instead, it was charged with something pure, something intense, something that audiences would feel across continents. Long after the day ended, long after the lights were switched off, long after the set emptied, Jerry and Tong Liya walked outside together, both quieter than usual yet strangely at peace. Whatever had happened between them during that scene had not broken them. It had transformed them. And that was the moment everyone would keep talking about long after the drama aired.